Hey everybody, tafony here once again, and today I am rambling about the Endorphin.es Ground Control. It is a 42 HP Eurorack sequencer. It is 8 drum tracks, 3 CV gate pairs, melodic tracks you could say, and it is a performative focused, fun 101 style sequencer. If I could sum it up in any way, I think that's probably the best way to do it. Now, let's get the housekeeping out of the way and then we'll dive right in. I'm not affiliated with Endorphins. They didn't send me this or anything. I just purchased this used with my own money. I'm not a journalist. I'm not here to present it to you or give you a tutorial or assess it nor review it. I'm just trying to do a video blog with my journeys in hardware, Eurorack, and otherwise, sequencers, synthesizers, everything in between. And more importantly than all that, it sounds like this. Well, maybe it doesn't sound like this, maybe it doesn't sound like anything because it is a sequencer, but other things that it controls control like this. So, I don't know if I'm going to leave that in. Maybe I did. Maybe we'll do this. Alright, so, ground control. I want to go over the panel first quick and say that, I don't know why I need, here's my teaching tool. If the instructor has the smacking stick, I have the spaghetti. Now, we have 8 drum tracks with a modulation out. Very cool. We have 3 CV gate pairs for 3 tracks. These are all switched through on the selection side by a track D for the 8 drums, track 1, 2, and 3 for the subsequent CV gate pairs. There is clock output, and then really interestingly, there is a goodbye input that you can use. What I believe, now don't fry your own gear, always consult the manual, don't listen to some rambling buffoon on the internet, but I believe this can take anywhere between a 12 and 20 volt input. You could use it as the power supply in your skiff if it doesn't have its own. I think the range of powers for that one, at least if the panel is an indication, means that you can sort of like, if you're flying, you can pack only your laptop power supply and use it to power your Eurorack. Don't quote me on that. I personally, like, all of my cases have power supplies, so I don't know if I would need that. But if you're interested in a way of getting sequencing and power in a skiff, then that is something that could be for you. There's MIDI in and MIDI out, reset in and reset out. Now, I don't know if it's a setting on mine, but the clock out is not working for mine for some reason. And like I said, I bought this used, so maybe there's a setting in here that says like it wants to be, wants to receive clock and won't send it, but I don't know. Clock out on mine doesn't want to work, but it is there. There is clock in. There is reset in. MIDI we talked about. There's a bunch of individual for Polymeter stuff here, I think. So you could like really get into... There's actually a lot of focus on Polymeter here and polyrhythms. I think you can get sort of into fun, generative, crazy stuff by sending it modulation to these resets. It's really interesting to see. That's not really... I'm kind of more in the, repetitive, hard techno, I guess you could say, realm. It's a lot more simple than crazy polymeters and polyrhythms, but there's lots of focus on it. There's a lot of focus on performative stuff here, so I think that's a lot of fun. If you are interested in polyrhythms, then I think Ground Control actually offers you a lot of fun stuff, especially on the input side. Now, there is individual mutes and one group mute for the drums. Awesome. It's like one of the best parts about like every sequencer should, especially drum ones, should have mutes, like performative ones, like physical button ones, not button combo ones. Just hit it, right? So I love that. I really appreciate that. Get the cat hair out of there. So there's group mute for all the drums, then individual track mutes. One performance behavior thing I guess I want to point out while I am poking those is that while I'm stopped, these mute and unmute immediately, but I believe there's a setting in the config that allows you to change the mute behavior from being immediate to cycling the end of the bar. So if you find some things aren't unmuting like I did, probably just a setting. Hopefully that is the same reason that my reset outs don't work. But when I first got this thing, I was like, oh, I think my mute buttons are kind of messed up because they don't things aren't unmuting as I expect them to. But I think it's because my melodic voices are in a mode that you change their mute state and then it has to restart the bar. So that's fun. And you know what, actually, as long as you're aware of that, I actually kind of like that for the melodic voices, to let them finish the line and then come in for a bar and, duck out on the inverse side. So we went through the I/O, we went through the mutes. There is pattern and page parameters here, or buttons, I should say. These have a lot of like other uses. So if I hit the tempo button, these are sort of like micro and macro, if that's sort of gives you an idea of how some of the workflow works. But that's those on that side. There are track selector buttons here. These are another nice way. It's so easy to just I hate to make comparisons repeatedly. This isn't even drums focused, but the Erica Synth drum sequencer that I was so disappointed in, that if you want to just select a track, it requires a shift function, and just being able to immediately select tracks is just performance much appreciated. So yes, that is that. Then there is our play button. I don't care so much for... This is stupid tafony nitpicking stuff, but I know Eurorack World, we love the creative stuff. But again, I'm just kind of groaning at this. The play button is like a triangle with an eye and the... Anyway, that's the play button. Stop, record, and you'll see this thing. If you want to break out your tafony bingo card real quick, really would have benefited from a screen. Screens are super useful. I get that they're also probably a programming nightmare, but if they ever do a Ground Control Mark II, please screens are prime. No encoders on here is actually something that I wanted to point out is also kind of interesting. How many modules do you have that don't have one encoder? Not a single encoder that aren't the Black Noir. I mean, I have a joystick. There's not everything has an encoder. There's utilities and stuff, but it's so rare that, this doesn't have an encoder. But it would have been nice, I think, to move some of the config settings from shift functions with, little microscopic writing on the panel to just having a screen with settings you can scroll through and change parameters, and also leaves the door open for firmware updates to add more options. So anyway, that's my obligatory every video rant about screens. However, I really do enjoy the Ground Control, and some of the config stuff is annoying, and there's things that I'm going to miss in this video because I just can't be damned to go in and learn a button combo for if you look in terms of things okay, we have a config setting for probability. I've never gone into probability just because to find track by track which button combo is going to create probability here. I would just rather be spending my time with some rolling of the drums. So I just wanted to, I know that isn't probability, but just like if I'm going to mangle, I would rather, this thing just begs to be mangled on the fly, if that's my takeaway. Now again, I'm just some guy, you might not find that stuff challenging at all, or you might not find it's a headache at all. You might not be interested in doing things that way, and this totally isn't for you. That's totally valid too. I'm just here to present it how I see it. And with that being said, I think there's a project view. To be honest, when it comes to using something like this that's so immediate, and I really appreciate the immediacy of it, I start fresh every time by holding project, clearing my drums, clearing my track 1, clearing my track 2, clearing my track 3, and starting fresh. So now that we are fresh again, let's go through the different sequencing modes. So I'm actually going to start on the melodic track because there's a little bit more sequencing options than there is on the drum side. So there's sort of 3 sequencing modes. There's like a 101 style step sequencer that starts you out on the first note, and we're going to try and just do a little bit of... So you see we are jumping through step by step here, and there is a rest button. So we want to rest. I know, this is the most exciting, thrilling bass line you've ever heard. I'm just going to throw in some ties. So this is tie here. So now that this is full, I'm going to hit stop. We're going to hit play. That's fun. And then I want to demonstrate the other mode. You can go into edit mode by holding record, and then it'll go by step. Nope, I am doing octave. Step. Here we go. So you see step by step in edit mode because I held it down. Like, this is how a rest is demonstrated by highlighting the little guy who's clearly not resting, but that's okay. What we can do here is add a tie. So it's also fun if you are into the 303 style sequencing, which I totally am. Throw in some ties this way. This is a lot of fun to do. Let's hit play. Now, there's 3 editing modes, and we are kicked out of the step editing mode by way of hitting play because it'll jump into the live perform mode, which is kind of tied in a way to the live record mode. So our ties are really short because our sequence is really fast, but that's okay. Adds a little something, which I appreciate. So now, that's a lot of fun. I just am going to clear that one out, though, because I want to show you. Boom, we've cleared it. Hit play. The final mode is to hit play, hit record, and we get live record mode. Now, I don't have any metronome or drum track going, so this might be a little wonky, but let's just try and throw some stuff in. And then a way to cheat this too, if you want to, here, let's just clear this out again, this holding project and pressing the mute button is your friend. Okay, so the last mode, we're going to come in and hit play, and we'll get some live recording. So I'm going to just punch in some notes at random. I don't have a metronome or anything to play along to here, so we're just going to go. And this is all right for, you might actually have some things you want to make happen on the melodic side when it comes to live recording, but when you're starting from scratch, I probably wouldn't start there. Where I would start is on the drum track when it comes to live recording. So if I hit play on this one, and I've selected my drum track now, we get our pretty much the same modes, but maybe our step sequencing is all the more useful here, if I could say that. And we enter that by hitting stop, hitting record, and now we are into that, and we can go through. I want to get down to our first step, and we will enter a kick. or I'm standing on the kick track, and I will want to enter it on the step basis by the step editor. So I hit step 1. And then one thing I really need to point out here when it comes to the step sequencer is that it doesn't go straight across the bottom, because that would only be 14 steps. It adds in the first and last black keys. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through to 15 and 16. So 1, 2, remember that these two are triggers. So we're standing on the kick track as labeled by the 1 here. That's our 1. And then we are going to add in 4 on the floor. So we want to do 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then through. So it ends up looking like that. So now we have a metronome of sorts because we have the kick going, and I want to hit record. So now we're live recording, and I'm going to enter some other trigs on our drum track because we're in the drum selector here. And I want a different preset, sorry, just so it's really easy for y'all to hear the difference. That like workflow, how easy it is to command 8 tracks of drums. I know it's a super simple short beat, but just like that is so good. And even to make it further, I'm not going to record any of this in, but rolls here, I love roll function. I've got 16th notes. Let's just go in and do a little bit of that. Sorry. 8 notes. I don't know why these are... Okay. That sounds great. I really enjoy it. We can also enter in... You can do rolls too. I just, the immediacy of that is great. We can also add in some rolls by turning on sort of like our arpeggio and the other style. We can just hit that, wait till it's blinking. And then the mutes. Let's go drums. Okay. I love the mutes too. Let's unmute. Sorry, need to give the dimension a little push, and then we can bring in our drums. I want to show you a quick workflow thing, so I can unmute them all. But I can also jump back in while preserving some stuff. So if I hit these 4, we've left some tracks muted. So you can sort of mute them all quickly and then unmute them piece by piece. Bring in our kick. And that is how I use the ground control. There's a lot more depth on board, including like program chaining and pattern chaining. I shouldn't say program chaining, although I think that might actually be possible as well. But pattern chaining, I'm just more of the like, simple. When you're making techno, that is more than enough, and I prefer to use performance tools to sort of turn it into a song by adding and taking away things. But like, the immediacy of that is really fun. Now, I don't think I demonstrated the arpeggiator, so if I go on the... if I go on the second track, I muted it rather than selecting it here. Apologies. If we set it to blink, then this isn't clock division. On the drum track, this is clock division, so I'll jump back to the clock. 16th notes. eighth notes, quarter notes, 32nd notes. But on the melody side, this is the order. So it's always going to be eighth notes, I believe. But right now we're down. Let's switch to up. Random. And order. And I think this is just like a fun way to play. I know people don't like, I don't know. You don't play your melodies live in your own rack, right? But I'm really enjoying doing this right now. A lot easier with arpeggios, obviously, but if I take this off, my sequence will go back to playing. I don't know what this is. We're doing the Macarena. Wine taught me the Macarena, so sorry. My partner, not the beverage. So one other workflow thing I want to point out here, if you mute it, you can override the mutes, right? So I don't have to go back to my sequence. I can play my arpeggios. Oh, no, I can't. No. Interesting workflow thing. So, okay. I was having too much fun there. If I... Oh, hello. Okay. Yeah, you play it with the mute on. It doesn't do my arpeggiation, but if I do a drum and roll it with the mutes on, it does. I just love this. Do some tempo. We're always doing some tempo, I hope, but let's increase our tempo a bit. Change up our kits. Just love performance stuff, you know? Hung note, I guess. Sorry. Mute. I don't know. It's so fun. I hate to it's not journalism. Something's allowed to be fun if it's fun, and the ground control is fun. Interesting. It's like portamento. Wonder what is causing that. Probably a shift setting. Because obviously it's monophonic over CV, but I hold one and I add a second note and I go. Yeah. So fun. Alright, last thing we're going to do before I move on to the next module, I just want to demonstrate sort of a classic thing that I think is borrowed from the original Roland machines, but last step. So Polymeter is pretty easy on this one by so we're using an odd one there. And you can make your sequences pretty random by just like shortening or extending certain tracks to like if they're not on the same loop, they're shifting constantly, right? So what I did here, hold last step for the first, as indicated by this light, the first drum track, bringing it down from 16 to 14. Now our kicks are going to cycle less, right? We get this like weird syncopation, right? So let's hold last step again. If I click on the... Yeah, okay, so you can jump through the individual drum tracks, this button combo, which is very nice. Just go crazy, Polymeter. Is this what the Euclidean kids are always trying to tell me about? See, our drums are super syncopated now, right? And they're always changing. That's really fun performance piece, right? Should we try it for our synth track? We make it uneven. 29. This is totally not techno. But I am techno and so can you. It's not all good. But if you like syncopation, I do. I really like syncopation too. These are super not melodic tracks. Too much fun. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Ground Control, super fun, super performative. Especially in a portable case, one of the best Eurorack sequencers, I think. You can't beat my Hermod Plus for me, but Ground Control offers something pretty unique and performative and a lot of fun. So I'm Tafony. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I will talk to you soon.